Lady, this ain't a test drive for charity. We sell real cars here. Brad Latham's voice carried across the polished marble floors of Latham Prestige Motors, dripping with smug amusement. To him, the black woman standing before him was an interruption, a mistake in his pristine showroom. He saw only her skin, not the quiet authority in her posture or the patience sharpening behind her eyes. When he ordered security to drag her out into the pouring rain, he thought the show was over. But by the next morning, the woman he laughed at would own the dealership, and every last one of them. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The rain drums against the pavement as Vanessa slowly gets to her feet. Her silk blouse is soaked, clinging to her shoulders. Water drips from her carefully styled hair. Through the glass doors, she sees Brad Latham laughing with Sam Price, both of them pointing and smirking at her humiliation. Her hands shake as she gathers her scattered belongings from the wet ground. Credit cards, car keys, lipstick. Each item feels heavy with indignity. The CEO identification card from Monroe Ecotech gleams under the dealership's exterior lights, a reminder of everything she's built from nothing. A young white couple hurries past her, averting their eyes. The woman whispers something to her husband. Inside, Marcus Boyd stands rigid by the door, his face a mask of professional detachment that can't quite hide his shame. Vanessa's phone chimes. It's Renee. Everything okay in there? Been a while. Her fingers hover over the screen, water droplets making it hard to type. Inside the showroom, Brad is now entertaining the couple that passed her, all charm and warmth. She watches as he guides them toward the very car she'd come to purchase, the limited edition electric Rolls-Royce in midnight blue. "Call me," she texts Renee. "Now." Vanessa walks with measured steps to her Tesla, dignity intact despite her drenched appearance. She slides into the driver's seat, letting out a long, controlled breath. The leather interior feels safe, familiar. She catches her reflection in the rearview mirror, mascara slightly smudged, but her eyes are clear, focused. Her phone rings. "Girl, what happened in there?" Renee's voice carries both concern and mounting anger. "They threw me out," Vanessa says quietly, watching Brad through the showroom windows as he gestures dramatically, selling hard to the white couple. "The head of security put his hands on me and pushed me into the rain." "They did what?" Renee's voice rises sharply. "Oh, hell no. I'm calling our lawyers right now." "No." Vanessa's tone is steel wrapped in silk. "Not yet. First, I need you to make some calls. Remember Richard Chen? The venture capitalist? The one who's been begging you to partner on that green energy fund? That's the one." Vanessa starts her car, the electric motor humming to life. "Call him. Tell him I'm interested in discussing that automotive acquisition package he mentioned last month. The one involving this dealership's parent company." "The whole franchise?" Renee whistles low. "That's gonna cost—" "Money isn't the issue. Richard's been looking for a splashy entry into the luxury electric vehicle market. This is his chance." Vanessa watches as Sam Price steps outside under an umbrella, speaking rapidly into her phone. "Then call Jerome at the bank. We'll need to move quickly." "What about the gala car?" "Oh, we'll still get it." Vanessa's voice is calm. Too calm. But not quite the way they expected. She sits in silence for a moment, rain pattering against the windshield. Through the glass, she sees Marcus Boyd step outside, looking troubled. He glances her way, then quickly looks down when their eyes meet. "Renee, I need you to pull something else for me. Every complaint ever filed against Latham Prestige Motors. Customer reviews, Better Business Bureau reports, social media comments, especially from minority customers. I want to know if what just happened to me is a pattern." "Already on it," Renee replies. Keyboard clicks audible in the background. And Vanessa? I'm sorry they did this to you. After everything you've built? Don't be sorry, Vanessa interrupts, her voice steady despite the emotion threatening to crack through. Be ready, because tomorrow we're going to teach Brad Latham what real power looks like. She ends the call and sits watching the dealership for a few more minutes. Brad is still visible through the windows, now behind his desk, probably closing the deal with the white couple. Sam Price stands nearby, both of them the picture of professional success in their expensive suits and practiced smiles. Vanessa takes out her compact mirror, carefully fixes her mascara, and adjusts her collar. The rain has started to ease, but the sky remains heavy with darker clouds moving in. She thinks about her father, who taught her about cars in their small garage in South Atlanta, about the engineering degree she earned while working 2 jobs, about the investors who dismissed her green technology patents until she proved them wrong, about every door that tried to stay closed until she forced it open. She reaches for her phone again, opens her camera, and records a short video of the dealership's exterior, making sure to capture Brad and Sam visible through the windows. Then she starts another call. Richard? Vanessa Monroe here. Sorry for calling so late, but I have a business proposition that I don't think you'll want to wait on. Inside her Tesla, Vanessa's hands tremble slightly as she replays the video on her phone. The footage is shaky but clear enough. Marcus Boyd's massive frame pushing her through the doorway, his face twisted with reluctance. Brad Latham appears in the background, arms crossed, that satisfied smirk playing across his lips as she stumbles. Sam Price stands beside him, perfectly manicured hand covering her mouth in mock concern, but her eyes dance with cruel amusement. The sound of rain fills the car's quiet interior as Vanessa watches it again. And again. Each viewing stokes the fire burning in her chest, but her breathing remains steady, controlled. She's learned over decades in business that rage is only useful when it's channeled, focused like a laser rather than exploding like a bomb. Her phone buzzes again, Renee calling back. Vanessa answers on speaker, her eyes still fixed on the frozen image of Brad's sneering face. I've got that footage you sent, Renee says, her voice tight with anger. Girl, we could blow this up right now. One post on Twitter and… No. Vanessa's tone is firm. Not yet. These people need to be exposed. The way they treated you. Let's hit them where it hurts, not where it itches, Vanessa says, finally lowering the phone to her lap. A viral moment might shame them, but shame fades. I want something more. Permanent. She can hear Renee taking deep breaths on the other end, trying to contain her own fury. That's why Vanessa values her so much. Renee feels everything deeply, but knows when to channel that emotion into action. I'm calling Calvin, Vanessa continues. Something's been bothering me about this place. The inventory looks expensive, but did you notice the details? Scuffs on the floor mats, dust in the corners, signs of cost-cutting everywhere. Now that you mention it… Renee pauses. Want me to pull their financials? Already on it. Vanessa ends the call and scrolls through her contacts, finding Calvin Ross's number. Her old mentor answers on the second ring, his voice warm despite the late hour. Vanessa, this is a surprise. Calvin, what do you know about Latham Prestige Motors? There's a thoughtful pause. Interesting you should ask. They're owned by Southern Luxury Auto Group, one of those regional franchises trying to compete with the national chains. Been struggling lately, from what I hear. Electric vehicles are eating into their market share, and they're having trouble adapting. Vanessa's free hand tightens on the steering wheel. How desperate are they to sell? Very. Calvin's voice takes on that careful tone he uses when sensing a major play in motion. But Vanessa, what's this about? This isn't your usual market. She tells him everything. The humiliation, the casual cruelty, the hints of deeper problems she'd noticed. Calvin listens without interrupting, but she can hear his sharp intake of breath at certain moments. "Send me the video," he says finally. "I'll make some calls tonight. But Vanessa, are you sure you want to take this on? Revenge is expensive." "This isn't about revenge, Calvin. This is about consequences." She starts her car, ready to head home. They think they can treat people this way because they've never faced real consequences. I'm going to change that. The drive home is a blur of streetlights and rain. Vanessa's mind races with numbers, strategies, possibilities. By the time she parks in her garage, she's already received 3 messages from Calvin with preliminary details about Southern Luxury Auto Group's finances. Inside her home office, she paces. The wall of windows shows Atlanta's glittering skyline, but she barely sees it. Her reflection appears intermittently in the dark glass, a shadow moving back and forth, steady and determined. Sleep isn't coming tonight. She knows this feeling, the same electric energy that drove her to build Monroe Ecotech from the ground up. Opening her laptop, she begins to research. Southern Luxury Auto Group's stock has been declining for 6 quarters. Their attempt to transition to electric vehicles has been half-hearted at best. Their leadership is old school, resistant to change, vulnerable. Her phone lights up with another text from Calvin. "Board meeting tomorrow morning. They're discussing strategic alternatives, code for looking for buyers. Timing is perfect if you're serious." Vanessa's fingers fly across the keyboard, pulling up templates for acquisition offers. The numbers are significant, but she's been looking for a way to expand Monroe Ecotech's direct sales presence. This could work on multiple levels, justice and good business aligning perfectly. The room gradually brightens as dawn approaches. Vanessa barely notices, absorbed in crafting the perfect offer. She adjusts terms, tweaks conditions, builds in contingencies. The laptop's glow illuminates her face, highlighting the absolute focus in her eyes. A new message from Renee pops up. "Found something interesting in those customer complaints. Lots of similar stories. Lots of people who look like us getting special treatment. Want me to keep digging?" "Yes," Vanessa types back. "But quietly. If this works, I want to know exactly what I'm buying." She returns to the acquisition document, adding another 0 to the offering price. In business, she's learned, speed often matters more than saving money. She needs this to happen fast, before they know what hit them, before they have time to hide whatever it is they're hiding. The first rays of sunrise begin to paint her office in soft golden light. Vanessa's reflection in the window is clearer now, her expression set with purpose. The trembling hands from last night are steady as she types, each keystroke another step toward turning humiliation into triumph. Morning light streams through Latham Prestige Motors' glass facade, casting long shadows across the polished showroom floor. The sales team clusters around the coffee machine, their laughter echoing off the marble tiles. Brad Latham stands at the center, gesturing with his designer coffee cup. You should have seen her face when Marcus showed her the door. He mimics a shocked expression, drawing snickers from his staff. These people need to learn their place. You can't just walk in here thinking you're somebody. Sam Price perches on a desk nearby, scrolling through her phone. Already handled the Yelp review she left. These situations require delicate management. She smiles, all teeth and no warmth. Can't have anyone thinking we're not inclusive. Marcus Boyd stands apart from the group, methodically checking security cameras. His shoulders are tense, jaw clenched as Brad continues his performance. I mean, really, Brad goes on, straightening his Italian silk tie. Coming in here looking like she just rolled out of bed, demanding to see our limited edition Spectre? Please. He takes a sip of coffee. I've been in this business 20 years. You can spot the real buyers from a mile away. A young salesman pipes up, eager to please. What if she tries to come back? Brad's laugh is sharp. Let her. Marcus will give her another free escort service. He claps Marcus on the shoulder, not noticing how the security chief stiffens at the touch. The morning sun suddenly dims as a line of black Mercedes sedans pulls up outside. The vehicles move with precise coordination, forming a barrier across the front of the dealership. What the hell? Brad mutters, moving toward the windows. The car's doors open in perfect synchronization. Men and women in expensive suits emerge, carrying briefcases and tablets. From the lead car steps Vanessa Monroe, but not the Vanessa from yesterday. This Vanessa wears a perfectly tailored white power suit that probably costs more than Brad's monthly salary. Her hair is immaculate, her posture royal. She moves like someone who owns not just the ground she walks on, but the earth beneath it. Oh, God, Sam whispers, her phone forgotten in her hand. The automatic doors slide open. Vanessa enters first, her heels clicking against marble in a steady rhythm. Behind her comes a phalanx of serious-faced professionals, lawyers, by the look of their expressions and the weight of their briefcases. Brad recovers first, plastering on his sales smile. Ma'am, I thought we made it clear yesterday that Mr. Latham, Vanessa cuts him off, her voice carrying to every corner of the showroom. I'm not here to buy a car. One of the lawyers steps forward, opening his briefcase. These are the executed purchase agreements for Latham Prestige Motors, signed by the board of Southern Luxury Auto Group at 6 a.m. this morning. Brad's laugh comes out forced, hollow. This is ridiculous. You can't just... I can, and I did. Vanessa nods to another member of her team, who moves to the showroom's main display screen. Sam, since you're so concerned about proof, let's use your excellent PR system to share some information. The massive screen flickers to life. Corporate documents appear, showing transfer of ownership, board signatures, bank confirmations. The numbers visible have too many zeros to count quickly. Sam's face goes pale. This isn't... You can't... Oh, but I can. Vanessa turns to address the gathering crowd of employees and customers. Some have their phones out, recording. For those who don't know me, I'm Vanessa Monroe, CEO of Monroe Ecotech, and as of 6 a.m. this morning, I own this dealership. The screen changes again, now showing security footage from yesterday. Brad's sneering face appears in high definition, his contempt preserved in perfect digital clarity. The footage continues. Marcus manhandling Vanessa, her belongings scattering on wet pavement. You see, Vanessa continues, her voice steady but charged with controlled power. When you humiliated me yesterday, you didn't know who I was. You didn't know I could buy this place 10 times over. You just saw my skin color and made assumptions. Brad's face has lost all color. He takes a step back, bumping into a display car. Now wait just a minute. No, Mr. Latham, you've done enough talking. Vanessa turns to face her team. Please distribute the termination notices. The lawyers move through the showroom, handing out envelopes. Sam's hands shake as she opens hers. Marcus accepts his with a quiet dignity. As of this morning, Vanessa announces, every word precise and measured. You all work for me, temporarily. She pauses, letting the weight of the moment sink in. And as of this moment, you're all fired. 2 police officers enter the showroom, their badges glinting in the morning light. They move directly toward Brad, who backs away, stumbling over his own feet. This is illegal, he sputters. You can't... Officers, Vanessa says calmly, please escort Mr. Latham from the premises. He's no longer employed here, which makes this trespassing. The officers take Brad's arms. He struggles briefly, his designer tie coming loose. You'll hear from my lawyers. I look forward to it. Vanessa watches as they lead him toward the door. I'm sure they'll enjoy reviewing the security footage as much as everyone else has. The showroom has fallen completely silent except for the sound of Brad's protests fading into the parking lot. Customers continue recording on their phones, some nodding in approval, others whispering among themselves. Sam Price's perfectly manicured nails tremble as she clutches her termination notice. This is workplace discrimination. I'll sue you back to whatever ghetto you crawled out of. Vanessa doesn't even glance her way. Ms. Price, your PR expertise seems to have failed you again. Perhaps review the security footage where you encouraged Mr. Latham's behavior before making threats. She turns to her legal team. Please document any such comments for our records. The showroom erupts into chaos. Sales associates huddle in corners, some crying, others angrily waving their termination papers. A few try to delete files from their computers, but Vanessa's IT team is already there, securing the systems. You can't do this to us, someone shouts. We have families. So did all the customers you discriminated against, Vanessa replies evenly. Security will escort you to your desks. You have 30 minutes to collect personal belongings. Marcus Boyd stands rooted to his spot, watching the scene unfold. His broad shoulders seem to cave inward, the weight of yesterday's actions visible in his stance. After several moments of internal struggle, he approaches Vanessa. Mrs. Monroe, he begins, his deep voice barely above a whisper. I need to apologize. What I did yesterday. He swallows hard. There's no excuse. Vanessa turns to face him fully. Her expression remains neutral, but her eyes are sharp with remembered hurt. You're right, Mr. Boyd. There isn't. I've spent years here, trying to keep my head down, trying to survive in a system that uses black men like you to enforce its racism. Vanessa's words cut like ice. You made your choice when you put your hands on me. When you decided your paycheck was worth more than your dignity or mine. Marcus flinches as if she'd struck him. Yes, ma'am. I did. He straightens his spine, accepting the judgment. I won't ask for my job back. I just wanted you to know I understand what I did wrong. Before Vanessa can respond, commotion erupts outside. A crowd has gathered, some with phones recording, others with hastily made signs. Local news vans screech into the parking lot, reporters spilling out with microphones ready. Mrs. Monroe, a journalist pushes through the glass doors. Is it true you bought this dealership overnight after being discriminated against? Vanessa's social media team is already in motion, their phones capturing everything. The security footage from yesterday plays on a loop on the showroom screens, now interspersed with the morning's ownership announcement. Sam Price makes one last attempt, stepping in front of a camera. This is a hostile takeover. She's destroying good people's lives for revenge. Actually, one of Vanessa's lawyers interjects smoothly, we have documentation of systematic discriminatory practices that made this dealership a liability to its parent company. Mrs. Monroe's purchase saved them from potential class action lawsuits. The hashtag thrown out then took over begins trending within hours. Video clips spread across social media like wildfire. Vanessa being thrown out in the rain, then returning triumphant to take ownership. Black Twitter erupts in celebration. White allies share and amplify. Conservative outlets cry, "Reverse racism." But the footage speaks for itself. As the chaos continues outside, Vanessa makes her way to what was previously Brad's office. The space reeks of overpriced cologne and privilege. She runs a finger across the mahogany desk, considering how many dreams were crushed in this room. Opening drawers at random, she finds the expected detritus of dealership management. Sales reports, employee records, loan applications. But something catches her eye. A separate ledger, hidden beneath false bottom drawer. Vanessa pulls it out, her business instincts tingling. The numbers don't add up. Loan approval rates show clear racial disparities, but it's more than that. There are patterns in the repossession records, suspicious correlations between credit scores and race. Mrs. Monroe, one of her accountants, appears in the doorway. We've found some irregularities in the electronic files. Show me. The accountant pulls up spreadsheets on his tablet. Look at these interest rates. Black buyers were consistently given higher rates than white buyers with identical credit scores, and the repo rates in black neighborhoods are 3 times higher. Vanessa's jaw tightens. She recognizes predatory lending when she sees it. Pull everything. Every contract, every repo order, every loan application for the past 5 years, and get me the GPS tracking data for all repossessed vehicles. Hours pass. The fired employees clear out. The protesters thin. News vans move on to other stories. But Vanessa stays, poring over documents as night falls over Atlanta. At 11 p.m., she finally calls Calvin Ross. "You did good today, girl," he answers. "Saw you on the news." "Calvin, this is bigger than we thought." Vanessa's voice is tight with controlled anger. "I think they were running a racket on black buyers. Predatory loans, targeted repos, possibly insurance fraud." "Slow down," Calvin cautions. "What exactly are you seeing?" "Patterns. Too many to be coincidence. They'd approve loans they knew would fail, then repo the cars at the first missed payment. But only in certain neighborhoods, only from certain people. You bought a dealership to teach them a lesson," Calvin says carefully. "Maybe that's enough." "No." Vanessa stares out her office window at the Atlanta skyline. "I'm going to find out exactly what they were doing here. Every detail, every accomplice, every victim." The next morning arrives with the promise of fresh revelations. Vanessa sits in her newly claimed office, surrounded by stacks of files, while Renee organizes documents on a whiteboard. Calvin Ross leans back in his chair, his reading glasses perched on his nose as he studies loan applications. "Look at this pattern," Renee says, tapping the whiteboard with a marker. "Every black customer who came in with a credit score above 700 either got denied or pushed into a higher interest rate bracket." Vanessa picks up another file. Maria Rodriguez, credit score 720, denied 3 times. Each time they cited insufficient income verification, despite her providing 2 years of tax returns. They were systematic about it, Calvin adds, his voice carrying the weight of decades dealing with financial discrimination. "See these notations in the margins? They used code words. Special consideration needed meant automatic denial for minority applicants." Renee slams down another stack of papers. James Washington, doctor at Emory. They quoted him 12% interest, while a white customer with lower credit got 4.5% the same day. "The numbers don't lie," Vanessa says, standing to examine the whiteboard. "But they tell an ugly truth. Pull up the repo records again." Calvin taps on his laptop. Repossessions increased 300% in predominantly black neighborhoods over the past 3 years. First missed payment? They swooped in. No grace period, no workout plans. And look who handled the repos, Renee points to a document. Same towing company every time, owned by a shell corporation that traces back to… Well, this is interesting. Vanessa leans over her shoulder. Keystone Holdings LLC. Who owns it? That's where it gets murky, Calvin says, adjusting his glasses. But the registered agent is a law firm that represents several city council members. I need to talk to David Crane, Vanessa decides. He signed off on every one of these loans. He's slippery, Calvin warns. Been in the game too long. Knows how to cover his tracks. Then it's time to make him sweat. An hour later, Vanessa strides into the regional finance office. Renee close behind. David Crane's secretary tries to stop them, but Vanessa walks past her desk like she isn't there. Crane looks up from his computer. his expensive suit, and carefully styled gray hair, a stark contrast to his windowless office. "Mrs. Monroe, I wasn't aware we had an appointment. Let's talk about your loan approval process at Latham," Vanessa says, dropping a thick file on his desk. "That's confidential information. I own the dealership now." "Nothing's confidential from me." She opens the file. "Explain why black customers with excellent credit were consistently denied or overcharged." Crane's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "Market factors determine our rates. Credit scores are just one component." "Don't insult my intelligence," Vanessa cuts him off. "I ran the numbers myself. The pattern is clear. The only variable that determined loan terms was race." "That's a serious accusation." Crane leans back, his chair creaking. "One that could damage reputations if carelessly thrown around. Like the reputation of Keystone Holdings?" Vanessa watches his face carefully. "Or the city council members who profit from predatory repos?" For just a moment, Crane's mask slips. Fear flickers in his eyes before his professional smile returns. "Mrs. Monroe, you're playing with powerful people. People who've built this city's financial structure over decades. They won't appreciate an outsider disrupting their system. Was that a threat, Mr. Crane? A friendly warning from someone who knows how things work?" He stands, straightening his tie. "There's a natural order to things. People who try to change that order often find themselves disadvantaged." "The natural order?" Vanessa's voice could freeze fire. "You mean systematic racism disguised as business practice?" "I mean reality," Crane says softly. "The reality is, some people aren't meant to own certain things. We simply help maintain appropriate boundaries." Renee steps forward, but Vanessa holds up a hand. "Thank you, Mr. Crane. You've been very informative." She gathers her files. "More informative than you intended." Back at the dealership, Vanessa spreads documents across her desk. Names, dates, loan numbers, all connecting to a web of financial discrimination. But something bigger lurks beneath the surface. "Look at these repo addresses," she tells Renee. "They cluster around planned development zones, areas where property values are about to spike. Gentrification by force," Renee realizes. "Push people into bad loans, repo their cars so they can't get to work. Then they can't pay their mortgages," Vanessa finishes, "forced to sell their homes below market value. But who benefits?" Vanessa pulls up a news article about urban renewal projects. City Councilman Gerald Keaton, head of the Urban Development Committee. His pet projects always seem to target these same neighborhoods. She closes the file with deliberate care. Rain begins to patter against the windows, and thunder rolls in the distance. "This isn't about cars," she whispers, watching storm clouds gather over Atlanta. "It's about control, about keeping people in their place." Lightning flashes, illuminating her office in stark white. The storm that had welcomed her humiliation yesterday returns, but this time she's ready for it. Thunder crashes overhead as the rain intensifies, drumming against the glass like nature itself demands justice. Vanessa's phone buzzes against her nightstand at 5 a.m., dancing across the wood in an endless vibration. She reaches for it, squinting at the screen's harsh glow. Notifications flood in faster than she can read them. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all exploding with activity. "What in the world?" she mutters, sitting up in bed. The viral video of her confrontation at the dealership has sparked a firestorm. Thrown Out Then Took Over trends nationwide, with thousands sharing their own stories of discrimination at car dealerships. "Yes, Queen," reads one comment with 50,000 likes. Show them what real power looks like. But beneath the support, darker messages lurk. Trolls flood her mentions with hate speech and threats. "Playing the race card again," one writes. "Another angry black woman trying to destroy a white man's business?" Vanessa's jaw tightens as she scrolls. She expected backlash, but the intensity surprises her. Her phone rings. It's Renee. "Turn on Channel 4, Renee says without greeting. "Now." Vanessa grabs her remote. Brad Latham's face fills the screen, his expression wounded and sincere as he speaks to a sympathetic morning show host. "I was actually assaulted," Brad says, his voice trembling perfectly. "Mrs. Monroe became aggressive when we couldn't accommodate her unreasonable demands. Our security team had to protect our other customers." "That lying," Vanessa starts, but Renee cuts her off. It gets worse. Sam Price released edited security footage. On screen, the footage plays, carefully cut to show only the moment Marcus touched Vanessa's arm, removing the minutes of harassment that came before. The morning show host nods gravely as Brad describes feeling threatened. "This is a clear case of reverse discrimination," Brad continues. "She used her wealth and influence to stage a hostile takeover because she didn't get her way. Is this really the message we want to send?" Vanessa's other phone line beeps. Unknown number. "I have to call you back," she tells Renee. She switches lines. "Hello? Mrs. Monroe." Marcus Boyd's voice is low, urgent. "I needed to warn you. They're coming after you next." Vanessa sits straighter. "Marcus? Why are you calling me?" "Because what I did, it wasn't right." He pauses. "They're digging up dirt on you. Sam has PR firms working overtime. They're going to try to destroy your reputation." "Why tell me this now?" "Because I've spent too long being their tool." His voice hardens. "Too long helping them hurt my own people. I can't sleep at night anymore." Vanessa considers his words. "What exactly are they planning?" "They're connecting you to old lawsuits, doctoring photos, anything they can use. But that's not the worst part. The money behind this? It goes higher than Brad. Way higher." A text comes in from Calvan. "Emergency meeting needed. Found something big in the books." "Thank you for the warning," Vanessa tells Marcus, "but I don't scare easily." She hangs up and dials another number, one she'd been saving. After 3 rings, a sharp voice answers. "Tasha Daniels." "Ms. Daniels, this is Vanessa Monroe. I've read your exposés on corporate corruption. I have a story you might be interested in." "The dealership takeover?" Tasha sounds amused. "Already on it. But something tells me there's more. Much more. How fast can you meet?" "Give me an hour." 90 minutes later, they sit in Vanessa's home office. Tasha Daniels radiates intensity, her press credentials hanging around her neck, recorder already running. She examines the loan documents with practiced eyes. "Systematic discrimination, predatory lending, forced repossessions," Tasha mutters, taking notes. "Connected to city development projects? This is bigger than one dealership." "That's why I need your help," Vanessa says. "I can fight Brad's PR war, but someone needs to dig deeper. Follow the money trail." "You know they'll come at you hard," Tasha warns. "The old boys' network doesn't like outsiders exposing their games. Let them come. I've dealt with their kind my whole career." Tasha grins. "Now that's the kind of attitude I like. I'll need access to all your records, and time to track down former customers. You'll have everything you need. Just be careful. These people play dirty. Honey, I'm from Chicago's South Side. Dirty is what I do best." They spend hours reviewing documents. Tasha's eyes light up at each new connection they uncover. By evening, she has enough for a preliminary investigation. "This could take down half the city council," Tasha says, packing up her notes. "Give me 2 weeks to verify everything." After Tasha leaves, Vanessa pours herself a glass of wine. The day's stress weighs heavy on her shoulders. Brad's smug face on TV, Sam's edited footage, the online attacks, all of it designed to make her back down. Not this time. she whispers to herself. Not ever again. Movement catches her eye outside. She approaches the window, pulling back the blinds slightly. A black SUV idles across the street, its windows tinted dark. The engine rumbles in the quiet night, headlights off but running. Vanessa watches, her wine forgotten in her hand. The vehicle sits motionless, a silent threat in the darkness. She's seen intimidation tactics before, worked her way up from nothing, fought through a male-dominated industry, built her company despite every obstacle. The SUV's presence is meant to frighten her. Instead, it hardens her resolve. She reaches for her phone to text Tasha. How soon can you start? Detective Harold Givens sits across from Vanessa in her temporary office at the dealership, his weathered face a map of skepticism and fatigue. Morning light streams through the windows, catching the silver in his hair. His coffee sits untouched, growing cold. I've seen this before, he says, spreading old case files across her desk. 3 years ago, I tracked similar patterns: predatory loans, targeted repossessions, all focused on minority neighborhoods. Vanessa leans forward. What happened to the investigation? Got shut down. Givens rubs his jaw. Higher-ups said there wasn't enough evidence, but I knew better. The numbers didn't lie. They just didn't want to see them. And now? Now I'm looking at the same playbook. He taps the financial records she's provided. Different dealership, same scheme. But this time, we've got better documentation. Vanessa slides him more files. Look at these loan applications. Every Black or Latino buyer got interest rates 3 to 5 points higher than white customers with identical credit scores. Classic redlining with a modern twist, Givens nods. But the real money's in the repossessions. They'd wait until buyers made substantial payments, then find any excuse to seize the vehicles. And resell them at a profit, Vanessa finishes. The cycle starts again. Exactly. Givens pulls out a notepad, his handwriting cramped but precise. But here's what interests me. The timing of these repos always aligned with city auctions, like someone was coordinating. Councilman Gerald Keaton, they say simultaneously. Givens raises an eyebrow. You've done your homework. Keaton chairs the Urban Development Committee, Vanessa explains. Every seized vehicle ended up in city auctions he oversees. The same auctions where David Crane's finance company mysteriously always had winning bids. They spend the next hour connecting dots. Brad Latham provided the front operation. Crane's company handled the predatory loans. Keaton's committee legitimized the seizures through city channels. A perfect circle of corruption. Look at these dates, Givens points out. Keaton's committee approved major construction projects in minority neighborhoods right after big waves of repossessions, forcing people out, driving property values down, then swooping in to buy cheap land for development, Vanessa concludes. They weren't just stealing cars, they were stealing whole communities. Givens sits back, his expression grim. This is the kind of case that ends careers. Not the criminals' careers, the investigators. You sure you want to pull this thread? They already tried to destroy my reputation once, Vanessa says firmly. I'm done being quiet. Then we do this smart. Givens stands, straightening his rumpled jacket. I've got contacts in the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. Let me make some calls, see who we can trust. As they wrap up, Vanessa's phone buzzes. A text from Tasha. Found 3 former customers willing to talk. Meeting them tonight. Progress, Vanessa tells Givens. My journalist contact is building the paper trail. Good. We'll need it rock solid. These people have friends in high places. Leaving the dealership that afternoon, Vanessa notices a dark sedan pull out behind her. She takes a deliberate wrong turn. The car follows. 2 more random turns confirm it. She's being tailed. Her hands tighten on the steering wheel. The sedan stays 3 cars back, professional but obvious enough to send a message. She calls Givens. Don't react, he says. They want you nervous. Take the long way home. See if you can ID the plates. She does, using her rearview mirror to catch glimpses. Government plates, partially obscured. Message received. When she finally arrives home, something feels off. The front door is locked, but there's a faint scent of unfamiliar cologne in the air. Her office door stands slightly ajar. She always closes it fully. Heart pounding, she pushes it open. Destruction greets her. File cabinets hang open, papers strewn across the floor. Her computer lies in pieces, screen shattered. Every drawer has been ransacked, every folder emptied. But the real message waits in her bathroom. Written across the mirror in bright red lipstick, the letters dripping like blood. Drop it, or else. Vanessa stands very still, taking in the violation of her space. They meant to frighten her, to make her feel vulnerable in her own home. Instead, she feels a cold anger crystallizing in her chest. She takes photos of everything, careful not to touch anything. Then she calls Givens. They hit my house, she says, without preamble. Left me a cute little warning. I'm on my way. Don't touch anything. And Vanessa? His voice turns serious. You need protection. Real protection, not just cameras. I have security. You need better. These people don't play games. Neither do I, she replies, staring at the lipstick message. Send forensics. Let's see what mistakes they made. She ends the call and stands in her violated office, surrounded by the wreckage of her files. The morning's discoveries flash through her mind. Keaton, Crane, the elaborate web of corruption they'd built. They'd gotten rich destroying people's lives, and now they thought they could intimidate her into silence. The sound of approaching sirens fills the air. Soon her home will be crawling with police, gathering evidence that will probably lead nowhere. The real evidence was in those missing files she'd already scanned and backed up to secure servers. Vanessa picks up a torn photo from the floor, her younger self, standing proud at the opening of her first company. She'd fought too hard, come too far to back down now. They wanted to scare her? They'd just made the biggest mistake of their lives. The fluorescent lights of Pete's all-night diner cast a sickly glow across the cracked vinyl booth. Vanessa sat with her back to the wall, watching the door. At 2 a.m., only a few truckers hunched over coffee cups dotted the counter. Marcus Boyd slipped in, his security training evident in how he scanned the room before sliding into the booth. His usual crisp appearance had wilted. Shirt wrinkled, tie loosened, dark circles under his eyes. "Thank you for meeting me," he said quietly, declining the waitress's offer of coffee. "I've been thinking about what I was part of." Vanessa studied him, remembering his hands on her arms as he'd thrown her out. But his face now showed genuine distress. "Talk," she said simply. Marcus leaned forward, voice barely above a whisper. "The dealership. It wasn't just about selling cars. We had this thing called the Special Loan Network. Brad had a list of zip codes, all minority neighborhoods. Anyone from those areas got marked for the high-interest contracts. How high? Double, sometimes triple the normal rates. But that wasn't the worst part." He glanced around nervously. Every month, Councilman Keaton would visit. He'd review the contracts personally, pick out the most vulnerable buyers. Then suddenly those people would start getting parking tickets, minor violations, anything to default their loans. And Brad? Got gifts from the councilman. Cash, sports tickets, vacation packages. Marcus's hands trembled slightly. I watched it happen. Kept my mouth shut because I needed the job. But I saw families lose everything. Their cars, their savings, their dignity. Vanessa pushed her untouched coffee aside. "Would you testify to this?" "That's why I'm here." Marcus pulled out a USB drive. "I kept records, dates, amounts, names. Been saving them, telling myself one day I'd do the right thing. He slid it across the table. Maybe that day is now. A truck's headlights swept across the window, making Marcus flinch. But these people, they're connected. Police, judges, City Hall, they've got hands in every pocket. I can protect you, Vanessa assured him. My legal team, like you protected your office, Marcus cut in. I heard about the break-in. These aren't amateurs, Ms. Monroe. His phone buzzed. The color drained from his face as he read the message. What is it? Nothing, he said too quickly, standing. I need to go. Use the files. Just be careful who you trust. He hurried out, leaving Vanessa staring at the USB drive. She didn't see him again until 16 hours later, in the hospital. The emergency room reeked of antiseptic and fear. Marcus lay in the bed, face swollen, left arm in a cast. The police report said he'd been jumped by 3 masked men in the parking lot of his apartment complex. They knew exactly when I'd be home, he whispered through split lips. Said this was my only warning. Vanessa gripped the bed rail, anger burning in her chest. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I can get you protection, move you somewhere safe. They're deeper than you think, he interrupted, wincing as he shifted. This goes beyond Keaton and Brad. There's a whole network. Banks, developers, politicians. They're using the dealerships to push people out of neighborhoods they want to gentrify. A nurse appeared to check his vitals. When she left, Marcus grabbed Vanessa's wrist with his good hand. They'll come for you next, he warned. Different way, but same goal. They can't let you expose this. As if on cue, her phone rang. It was her lawyer, voice tight with concern. We just received a subpoena, he said. Someone's filed a complaint alleging you embezzled funds from your company to purchase the dealership. They're demanding a full audit. Vanessa's grip tightened on the phone. Who filed it? Anonymous tip to the SEC. But the timing is no coincidence, she finished. How long do we have? They're moving fast. Hearing set for next week. Vanessa, if they freeze your assets, they won't. She kept her voice steady, though her heart raced. Get our financial team on it. Every transaction, every document needs to be perfect. She ended the call, meeting Marcus's knowing gaze. See, he said softly. They don't just break bones. They break lives. Later that night, Vanessa stood in her dealership office, surrounded by the wreckage of her dream. The pristine showroom she'd imagined transforming into a beacon of opportunity now felt like a trap closing around her. Display lights cast long shadows across empty spaces where luxury cars had gleamed. In the distance, sirens wailed, a sound she'd grown too familiar with lately. Each echo seemed to mock her initial triumph, her belief that buying this place would bring justice. She pressed her palms against the cool glass of the window, watching police lights flash somewhere in the city. The same city where Marcus lay beaten, where corrupt officials plotted her downfall, where dreams of black success were systematically crushed by invisible hands. The walls of the office seemed to press inward, the space shrinking with each new threat. But she remained standing, her reflection in the darkness staring back with defiant determination. They wanted to make her feel small, trapped, powerless, just like every customer they'd exploited. The sirens grew louder, then faded, leaving her alone with the weight of what she'd uncovered and the price of pursuing truth. The morning sun glinted off the newly installed sign, Monroe Motors, driving change forward. The dealership's transformation was complete. Gone were the intimidating glass walls and cold marble floors. In their place stood warm wood accents, community meeting spaces, and a state-of-the-art technical training center. Vanessa adjusted her blazer as she watched the growing crowd from her office window. Local news vans lined the street. Community leaders mingled with automotive executives. A group of high school students, part of her new mentorship program, huddled excitedly near the front. Everything's ready, Renee said, tablet in hand. Press packets distributed, scholarship announcements prepared, and the prototypes in position. The prototype, a sleek electric vehicle designed by her company's first all-black engineering team, gleamed under spotlights on the showroom's main platform. It represented everything she'd fought for: innovation, opportunity, and breaking down barriers. Marcus wheeled himself into the office, his injuries still healing, but his spirit unbroken. Security's all set. We've got plainclothes officers mixed in the crowd, just in case. Vanessa squeezed his shoulder. Thank you, Marcus, for everything. He shook his head. I'm just trying to make things right. The crowd had swelled to over 300 people. Black business owners who'd been denied loans stood shoulder to shoulder with community activists. Local tech students clutched program applications. Even a few former customers who'd lost their cars to the previous management's schemes had come, not to protest, but to witness change. At exactly noon, Vanessa stepped onto the podium. Camera flashes popped. She gripped the microphone, remembering that rainy day when she'd been thrown out these very doors. 6 months ago, I walked into this dealership to buy a car, she began. Instead, I bought the truth. The truth that discrimination doesn't always wear a hood or carry a torch. Sometimes it wears a suit and carries a loan contract. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Several former employees of Latham Prestige Motors shifted uncomfortably. But today isn't about the past. It's about the future. She gestured to the students. Today, I'm announcing the Monroe Motors Technical Excellence Program. Full scholarships for 50 Black and minority students to study automotive engineering and green technology. Applause erupted. Parents hugged their children. A mother in the front row wiped tears. And that's just the beginning, Vanessa continued. We're partnering with local banks to create fair lending programs. We're opening a free financial literacy center. And, most importantly, she pointed to the prototype, we're creating jobs. Real jobs, engineering jobs, management jobs, for people who've been told too many times they don't belong. Marcus watched from his wheelchair, pride evident in his eyes. He'd lost so much standing up for the truth, but gained something more valuable: purpose. Vanessa unveiled the scholarship details: $50,000 per student, guaranteed internships, mentorship programs. The crowd's energy built with each announcement. This isn't charity, she declared. This is investment. In our community. In our future. In justice. The applause was deafening. Camera crews pushed forward. Students waved their applications. It was a moment of pure triumph. Everything she'd fought for crystallized in a single point of light. After the ceremony, well-wishers lined up to shake her hand. Parents thanked her through tears. Young engineers showed her their designs. The positive energy felt unstoppable. You did it, Marcus said quietly, as the crowd began to thin. You really did it. Vanessa smiled, exhausted but fulfilled. We did it. All of us. As evening approached, she gathered her things to head home. The day's success had left her drained, but hopeful. Maybe now the threats would stop. Maybe her enemies would see she couldn't be intimidated. The drive home was peaceful. Streetlights flickered on as dusk settled over Atlanta. She thought about calling her mother, sharing the day's victory. Then she turned the corner onto her street, and her world exploded. Orange flames licked the night sky. Her house, her grandmother's house, was engulfed. Fire trucks screamed past her as she abandoned her car in the middle of the street. No, no, no! She ran toward the inferno. Her files were in there. Evidence, family photos. Everything. Ma'am, stop! A firefighter caught her waist as she lunged for the front door. The structure's unstable. My office! I need to get to my office! She fought against his grip, watching helplessly as windows shattered from the heat. More sirens wailed in the distance. Neighbors gathered on their lawns, recording with phones. The heat was intense, even from 50 feet away. A second firefighter dragged her further back as part of the roof collapsed. "Please, ma'am, it's not safe." Vanessa stood trembling, watching decades of memories burn. The red and blue lights from emergency vehicles painted surreal patterns across her face. She could taste ash in the air. Her phone buzzed. "Marcus, I just heard. Are you okay?" "They're burning it all," she whispered, watching flames consume her life's work. "Everything I built." The fire's reflection danced in her eyes as another wall crumbled. Today's triumph felt like ashes in her mouth. They'd let her have her moment of glory, then struck where it hurt most. She stood there as the firefighters battled the blaze, their hoses arcing water into the inferno. But she knew it was too late. Whatever evidence she'd kept at home was gone. Her safe space had been violated. The message was clear. Nowhere was untouchable. The next morning dawned gray and cold. Vanessa sat in a hard plastic chair at the Atlanta Police Department, her designer suit still reeking of smoke. Dark circles hung under her eyes. She hadn't slept since watching her home burn. Detective Sarah Martinez set a styrofoam cup of coffee in front of her. "Ms. Monroe, we need to ask you a few more questions about the fire." Vanessa wrapped her trembling hands around the warm cup. "I've told you everything. I was at the dealership event all day. I have hundreds of witnesses. This isn't about the fire." Detective Thompson entered, his face grim. He dropped a thick folder on the metal table. "Stand up, please." "Excuse me?" "Stand up, Ms. Monroe." She rose slowly, confusion turning to shock as Thompson pulled out handcuffs. The metal clicked cold around her wrists. "Vanessa Monroe, you're under arrest for embezzlement, wire fraud, and money laundering." "What? This is ridiculous." She tried to turn toward Martinez, but Thompson held her arms firmly. "Call my lawyer. Now." "Your lawyer's been notified." Martinez wouldn't meet her eyes. "We have documentation showing you've been moving funds through shell companies for months." Thompson led her to a processing room. Her fingerprints were taken. A mugshot. Her belongings catalogued. Each indignity felt surreal. "This is a mistake," she kept saying. But the officers processed her mechanically, deaf to her protests. In the holding cell, Vanessa paced, 6 steps forward, 6 steps back. The concrete walls seemed to close in with each turn. Her phone call to her lawyer went straight to voicemail. Hours crawled by. Finally, Martinez returned with a laptop. "Take a look at this." Bank statements filled the screen. Wire transfers from Monroe Ecotech to companies Vanessa had never heard of. Her signature, forged but convincing, on loan documents authorizing millions in suspicious transactions. "These are fake," Vanessa said. "I never signed these. They came from your company's servers." Martinez scrolled through more documents. "And there's this." She opened a news article about Councilman Keaton. The headline read, "Local CEO Vanessa Monroe named in federal probe of auto loan scandal." "What? No, Tasha's article. She exposed Keaton yesterday. It was everywhere." Martinez typed in the news site's URL. Error page. She tried another. Nothing. Every trace of Tasha's exposé had vanished. "Your journalist friend's story never ran," Thompson said from the doorway. "Must have been a technical glitch." Vanessa's stomach dropped. They'd gotten to Tasha's publisher. Probably threatened them. All that evidence. Gone. They led her to a proper cell. The bars clanged shut with finality. Through the small window, she could see the city skyline, the same view she'd had from her office, but now framed by steel. Her lawyer finally arrived, looking harried. "They're charging you tomorrow morning. It'll be public, cameras and everything. The DA wants to make an example." "They planted evidence," Vanessa said. "They're framing me." "I know, but they've covered their tracks well. The shell companies trace back to your IP addresses. The signatures match exemplars from your corporate documents. They even have security footage of you allegedly shredding evidence." "That's impossible." "It's doctored, obviously, but it'll take time to prove that. Meanwhile, they're freezing your assets. The board of Monroe Ecotech is calling an emergency meeting." Vanessa sank onto the thin mattress. Everything she'd built over decades, her company, her reputation, her fight for justice, was being dismantled in hours. A guard brought dinner, dry sandwich, apple, small milk. She couldn't eat. Her mind raced, trying to piece together how they'd orchestrated this so quickly. The fire wasn't just destruction. It was distraction. While she watched her home burn, they were planting their trap. Night fell. The cell grew darker. Other inmates shouted and banged on bars, but Vanessa sat motionless, staring at her reflection in the reinforced glass. Her face looked older, harder, but her eyes still burned with the same fire that had driven her all her life. "They took everything," she whispered to her reflection. "But I'm still standing." The words felt hollow in the cold cell, but she repeated them like a mantra. They'd stripped away her freedom, her reputation, her life's work, but they couldn't take her truth. She knew what they'd done, to her, to countless others through their predatory loans and racial targeting. A guard walked past, keys jingling. Somewhere down the corridor, a woman sobbed. Vanessa thought of Marcus in his wheelchair, of Tasha's silenced story, of all the people counting on her to expose the truth. She couldn't let them down. She lay back on the thin mattress, mind working. They thought they'd broken her, but they'd just shown their hand. Every fake document, every planted piece of evidence was another thread to unravel. She just needed to figure out how to pull them all at once. The night stretched endless. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, never dimming. Vanessa closed her eyes, but didn't sleep. Tomorrow they would parade her before cameras, try to destroy everything she stood for. But she'd faced public humiliation before. She'd transformed it into power. "I'm still standing," she repeated to herself in the darkness. Not just standing, planning. They'd taken her freedom, but they couldn't take her mind. And that's where the real battle would be won. Dawn crept through the narrow window of Vanessa's cell, casting thin bars of light across the concrete floor. She hadn't slept. Her mind kept replaying every humiliation, being thrown out of the dealership, watching her house burn, the cold click of handcuffs. The morning count came and went. Breakfast, lumpy oatmeal and weak coffee, sat untouched on her small metal desk. Other inmates shuffled past for yard time, but Vanessa remained seated on her bunk, back straight, eyes focused on nothing. "Monroe!" a guard called out. "Visitor!" She looked up, expecting her lawyer. Instead, Marcus Boyd stood in the visitors' area, leaning heavily on a cane. His face was still bruised from the beating, but his eyes were clear and determined. "You shouldn't be here," Vanessa said through the glass partition, picking up the visitor phone. "Had to come." Marcus's voice crackled through the receiver. "They tried to kill me to keep me quiet. Now they're trying to bury you. I can't let that happen." Vanessa studied his face. The guilt in his eyes had been replaced by something harder. "You're risking a lot coming here." "I risked more staying silent." He shifted painfully in his chair. "Remember when you fired me? You said I made my choice when I put my hands on you. Well, I'm making a different choice now." A guard walked past, and Marcus lowered his voice. "I have something they don't know about." "What?" "Backup copies. Of everything. The dealership's surveillance archives going back 3 years. Every conversation in Brad's office, every backroom deal." He tapped his temple. "Security chief, remember? The cameras saw everything." Vanessa's heart began to race, but she kept her face neutral. Other inmates were watching. You kept copies? Insurance policy. Brad and his crew weren't just racist. They were dangerous. I needed protection. He leaned forward. There's footage of the councilman visiting after hours. Brad counting cash. All those special loan applications they processed for certain customers. The evidence they destroyed in the fire wasn't the only copy. Marcus glanced at the guard station. I can get it to you. But we need help getting it out there. Someone they can't shut down. Vanessa thought for a moment. I need to make a call. Back in her cell, she requested phone privileges. The collect call went through after 3 rings. Tasha Daniels. It's Vanessa from County Lockup. A pause. Damn, girl. They really did it, huh? My editor pulled my story right before press. Said there were legal concerns. They got to him. But listen, you still got your broadcast channel? Always. Built my own platform after too many stories got killed by scared publishers. Why? Something's coming your way. Raw footage. Hours of it. You'll know what to do. They'll try to stop it from airing. That's why we need your independent channel. No corporate owners to pressure. No advertisers to threaten. I got you. Tasha's voice hardened. They think deleting my story killed it. I'm about to rise from the dead and haunt their asses. The guard signaled time was up. Be ready, Vanessa said quickly. It's coming soon. That afternoon, Marcus returned. He walked with exaggerated difficulty, drawing the guard's attention to his cane. During their brief conversation, his hand slipped beneath the visitor counter. When Vanessa returned to her cell, she found a small USB drive tucked into her sleeve. She sat on her bunk, heart pounding. All their evidence, their real evidence, was on this tiny piece of plastic. She carefully lifted her thin mattress and found a small tear in the fabric. Perfect. She slipped the drive inside just as guards began shouting, "Lights out in 5 minutes!" Vanessa lay back, feeling the hard shape of the drive beneath her. Other inmates called out goodnights and complaints. The fluorescent lights flickered off, leaving only the faint glow from the corridor. In the darkness, Vanessa traced her fingers over the mattress, feeling for the hidden drive. So small, yet it contained everything they needed. Every racist comment, every illegal deal, every moment of corruption caught on camera. They thought destroying her office and burning her home had erased their crimes. They didn't know their own security system had been recording it all. She thought of Marcus, limping away with his cane, risking everything to get her this evidence. Of Tasha, ready to broadcast the truth no matter the consequences. Even locked in this cell, she wasn't alone anymore. The night guards made their rounds, flashlight beams sweeping across the cells. Vanessa pretended to sleep, but her mind was racing, planning. Tomorrow, they would try to destroy her reputation in front of the cameras. They didn't know she had their secrets tucked safely away, waiting to be revealed. Other inmates snored or whispered in the darkness. Someone cried softly in a distant cell. Vanessa lay still, one hand pressed against her mattress, feeling the small bump that meant hope. The drive was safer here than anywhere else. They'd never think to search a jail cell for digital evidence. The night stretched on. Every so often, Vanessa checked to make sure the drive was secure. It had to stay hidden until the right moment. One chance was all they'd get. But for the first time since her arrest, she felt the balance of power shifting. They thought they'd stripped everything from her, left her powerless and alone. They were wrong. Guards called out the hour changes. Midnight, 1 a.m., 2. Vanessa remained awake, guard up, protecting the small piece of plastic that would change everything. Whatever happened tomorrow, the truth was safe, and soon it would be impossible to hide. Dawn hadn't yet broken when Tasha Daniels sat at her makeshift broadcasting desk, fingers hovering over her laptop keyboard. The USB drive Marcus had smuggled out lay before her like a loaded weapon. She'd spent all night reviewing the footage, her hands shaking with each new revelation. "Time to light the match," she muttered, clicking Upload. The first video showed Brad Latham in his office, counting stacks of cash while Councilman Keaton watched. Their voices were crystal clear through the hidden microphone. "These special loans are gold mines," Brad laughed, rubber banding another stack. "They default, we repo, resell at markup. Rinse and repeat." The councilman's distinctive laugh echoed. "Just keep it quiet. Election season's coming up." The next clip featured Sam Price at her computer, methodically altering loan applications. "Watch this," she told David Crane, who lounged against her desk. "Change the income verification here, bump the interest rate there." By the time they realize what happened, the car's already gone. "Beautiful," Crane replied, straightening his expensive tie. "Keep bleeding the minorities dry. They never read the fine print anyway." Tasha's hands clenched as she compiled the footage. 3 years of surveillance cameras had captured every backroom deal, every racist joke, every moment of casual cruelty. She added text overlays identifying each player, their roles, the dates, and times. At 6 a.m. sharp, she hit Publish on her independent news platform. Then she cross-posted to every social media site she could access. "Try to bury this," she whispered. By 7 a.m., the footage had gone viral. Latham Gate and car dealership scam trended nationwide. Local news stations picked up the story, playing the most damning clips on repeat. At 8 a.m., protesters began gathering outside City Hall. They carried signs reading "Justice for Vanessa" and "Lock them up instead." The crowd grew by the minute. Inside her jail cell, Vanessa listened to the growing commotion outside. Guards whispered about chaos downtown. Inmates crowded around the common room TV, watching footage of their corrupt city officials exposed. "That's the lady they locked up," someone shouted, pointing at Vanessa's photo on screen. "They tried to frame her." Detective Givens stood in his precinct, watching the same footage. Years of suppressed evidence, all laid bare. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, federal investigators, internal affairs. He'd been right all along about the corruption, but they'd shut down his investigation. Now, there was no shutting this down. At the councilman's campaign headquarters, Gerald Keaton prepared for his morning re-election rally. His staff buzzed nervously around him, phones dinging with notifications. "Sir," his campaign manager interrupted, face pale. "You need to see this." But it was too late. As Keaton stepped onto the stage, reporters swarmed. Camera lights flashed, microphones thrust forward. "Councilman, can you explain the cash payments shown in this footage? Why were you meeting Brad Latham after hours? Did you know about the discriminatory lending practices?" Keaton's practiced smile cracked. Security rushed him off stage as the questions kept coming. Back at the jail, Vanessa sat in her cell, listening to the growing chaos. More inmates gathered at the common room TV. Guards huddled around their phones. The truth was spreading like wildfire, and no amount of political pressure could contain it now. "Monroe!" a guard called out. "Your lawyer's here." Vanessa was led to the visitor area, where her attorney waited, practically bouncing with excitement. His tie was crooked, his normally perfectly combed hair disheveled. "They're dropping all charges," he announced, spreading papers on the counter. "The DA's office is in complete damage control mode. They're claiming they were misled about the evidence against you." Vanessa allowed herself a small smile. Her first in days. What about the others? Arrest warrants are being issued as we speak. Brad Latham, David Crane, Sam Price, they're all going down. The councilman's under investigation by the Ethics Committee. His re-election campaign just suspended all activities. Through the visitor area window, Vanessa could see more protesters gathering outside the jail. Their chants echoed through the thick walls. "Free Vanessa! Lock them up!" "The FBI's involved now," her lawyer continued. "They're looking into the entire loan network. Other dealerships, other cities. This could expose corruption across the whole region." Vanessa thought of Marcus, risking everything to get her that footage. Of Tasha, broadcasting the truth when others would have stayed silent. Of Detective Givens, finally seeing his suspicions validated. "How soon until I'm released?" she asked. "They're processing the paperwork now. A few hours at most." He gathered his documents. "And Vanessa? The civil suits we can file after this? They'll never recover." As her lawyer left, Vanessa was led back to her cell to wait for processing. The familiar corridor felt different now. Other inmates called out congratulations. Even some guards nodded respectfully. In her cell, she carefully retrieved the empty USB drive from her mattress. Such a small thing to bring down an empire of corruption. She thought of Brad's sneering face that first day, of Sam's false smile, of the councilman's practiced charm. All their power, all their connections, all their careful schemes, undone by the very cameras they'd installed to protect themselves. The morning sun finally broke through her narrow window. Soon she'd walk out of here, head held high. But for now, she sat quietly, letting the warmth touch her face, listening to the sounds of justice finally being served. The heavy jail doors opened with a metallic groan. Vanessa Monroe stepped into the bright morning sunlight, her shoulders back, head high. The crowd that had gathered outside erupted in cheers. "Justice for Vanessa!" they chanted, waving handmade signs and cell phones recording her every move. Camera flashes exploded around her like lightning. Reporters shouted questions, microphones thrust forward. But Vanessa walked straight ahead, focused on her destination. The courthouse steps just across the street. Tasha Daniels fell in step beside her, protective and proud. "You ready?" Tasha asked quietly. "Been ready my whole life," Vanessa replied. The crowd parted to let them through. Some reached out to touch her arm or pat her shoulder in support. Others wiped tears, seeing justice finally take shape. Police officers lined the path, their faces a mix of shame and respect. At the courthouse steps, a podium had been hastily assembled. News vans with towering satellite dishes crowded the street. Every major network was present. This wasn't just local news anymore. Renee appeared with a folder of documents, hugging Vanessa tightly. "Everything's here. Time to end them." Vanessa took her place behind the podium. The marble columns of the courthouse rose behind her like silent witnesses. Camera lights blazed. The crowd fell quiet. "Good morning," she began, her voice clear and strong. "My name is Vanessa Monroe. Last week I was thrown out of a car dealership for being black. This week I was falsely imprisoned for exposing their crimes. Today I'm here to tell the whole truth." She opened the folder, laying out documents one by one. These papers show a deliberate conspiracy between Latham Prestige Motors and City Councilman Gerald Keaton to target minority buyers with predatory loans. The crowd murmured as she held up loan applications. They altered income verification documents. They inflated interest rates. They engineered defaults to steal cars back and resell them at higher prices. Suddenly, commotion erupted at the back of the crowd. FBI agents in dark jackets pushed through, leading a handcuffed Brad Latham and Sam Price. Their perfect business attire was wrinkled from the arrest. Sam's mascara ran in black streaks down her face. "Speaking of criminals," Vanessa said, her voice razor-sharp, "there they are now." The cameras swung to capture Brad and Sam being led up the courthouse steps. Brad tried to duck his face away, but Sam stared straight ahead. Her PR smile finally cracked. "Mr. Latham," Vanessa called out, causing him to freeze. "Remember when you said these cars were too expensive for people like me? How does that holding cell feel?" The crowd roared. Someone started chanting, "Lock them up!" until hundreds took up the cry. Vanessa raised her hand for quiet, but they were just the faces of this operation. The real architect was Councilman Gerald Keaton, who used this scheme to funnel money into his campaigns while destroying black families' credit. She projected surveillance photos onto a screen behind her. The councilman accepting envelopes, secret meetings in the dealership after hours, bank statements showing suspicious transfers. For 3 years, they thought they were untouchable. Vanessa continued. They forgot one thing. Cameras see everything, and truth always finds a way. More commotion rippled through the crowd. The councilman himself appeared, flanked by his lawyers and staff. He tried pushing toward the podium, his face red with rage. "This is slander!" he shouted. "These accusations are—" "Are what, Councilman?" Vanessa cut him off. "Are all recorded? Are fully documented? Are being investigated by federal authorities as we speak?" She played the damning security footage on the screen. The councilman's own voice filled the square. "Just keep bleeding them dry." His face drained of color. He clutched his chest, stumbling backward. His lawyers caught him as his knees buckled. FBI agents moved in smoothly, reading him his rights as news cameras captured every moment. The proud politician who'd built his career on false promises sagged between them, defeated. To everyone who was targeted by this scheme, Vanessa addressed the crowd. "My legal team will help you file for restitution. To everyone who stood by me during this fight, thank you. And to those who thought they could silence me?" She paused, looking directly into the cameras. "You chose the wrong woman to underestimate." The square erupted in cheers. Protesters hugged and cried. Reporters shouted more questions. But Vanessa had said her piece. She stood tall beneath the courthouse columns, watching as Brad, Sam, and the councilman were led away to waiting vehicles. Their perfect facades had crumbled, revealing the rot beneath. Detective Givens appeared at her side. "Never thought I'd see this day," he said gruffly. "You did what we couldn't for years." "Sometimes it takes losing everything to gain the power to change everything," Vanessa replied. Marcus wheeled himself through the crowd, still bruised, but smiling. Tasha worked the reporters, making sure every outlet had the full story. Renee coordinated with lawyers as phones rang constantly. But Vanessa remained still, absorbing the moment. The morning sun warmed the courthouse steps. Justice, so long denied, had finally arrived. She thought of her younger self, fighting to be taken seriously in boardrooms, of every door closed in her face, of every subtle and not-so-subtle reminder to know her place. The handcuffs clicking around the councilman's wrists echoed like victory bells. 3 weeks later, workmen installed the final letter on the gleaming new sign. Monroe Motors. The dealership's transformation was complete. Gone were the stuffy leather chairs and pretentious artwork. In their place stood sleek, modern furniture, local art, and educational displays about electric vehicles and green technology. Vanessa stood in the showroom, surveying the preparations for the grand opening. Elegant buffet tables lined one wall, loaded with catering from Black-owned local restaurants. A jazz quartet warmed up in the corner. Display screens showed profiles of the first class of scholarship recipients, young black engineers and mechanics who would train here. "Everything's ready," Renee said, tablet in hand. The mayor's office confirmed. The new mayor, of course. And we've got press from every major outlet. "Security?" Vanessa asked. "Triple-checked," Marcus answered from his wheelchair. Though still recovering, he'd insisted on overseeing security personally. Every entrance covered. Metal detectors at the doors. By 10 o'clock, the showroom was packed. Hundreds had come. Community leaders, business owners, families who'd been victimized by the old regime. Children pressed their faces against the windows of displayed vehicles, while parents actually received respectful attention from salespeople. Vanessa moved through the crowd, greeting guests. She paused to chat with Detective Givens, who'd come in uniform. Tasha Daniels was filming for her documentary, capturing the mood of celebration and vindication. "Ms. Monroe," a young black girl called out, "can I take a picture with you? I want to own a business like you someday." Vanessa smiled, kneeling beside the girl for the photo. This was why she'd fought so hard. Not just for justice, but for inspiration, to show what was possible. The sound of breaking glass shattered the moment. Brad Latham stood in the doorway, wild-eyed and disheveled. His expensive suit was rumpled, his tie askew. In his trembling hand, he held a pistol. "You!" he screamed at Vanessa. "You ruined everything!" The crowd scattered. Parents grabbed children. Security moved forward, but Brad waved the gun erratically. "Stay back!" he shouted. "This is between me and her." Vanessa straightened slowly, pushing the young girl behind her. "Brad," she said calmly, "you're making a mistake." "A mistake?" He laughed hysterically. "I'm out on bail wearing an ankle monitor. My reputation is destroyed. My whole life, gone." "Your choices destroyed your life," Vanessa replied. "Not me." Brad's face contorted with rage. He stumbled forward, gun aimed at her chest. "Always so superior. You think you're better than me? You're nothing. You're—" Marcus's wheelchair slammed into Brad's legs from behind. The gun went flying. Brad sprawled forward, cursing. But as Marcus tried to grab him, Brad twisted away and lunged for Vanessa. She was ready. Years of rage and humiliation exploded into action. Her first punch caught Brad square in the jaw. He staggered but came back swinging. They crashed into a display car. "You don't belong here," Brad snarled, trying to wrap his hands around her throat. Vanessa drove her knee up, breaking his grip. "I own here." She landed another solid hit. Brad scrambled for the fallen gun. Marcus launched himself from his chair, tackling Brad around the waist. They wrestled on the showroom floor as Vanessa kicked the weapon away. But Brad was desperate. He slammed an elbow into Marcus's injured ribs, breaking free. He stumbled up, blood streaming from his nose, and charged Vanessa again. She met him head-on. All the times she'd been dismissed, belittled, pushed aside. It all fueled her now. Her fist connected with his solar plexus. As he doubled over, she brought her knee up into his face. Brad went down hard. He tried to rise, but couldn't. Blood dripped onto the polished floor. Police sirens wailed outside. Detective Givens already had his weapon trained on Brad. "Don't even think about moving," he warned. Vanessa stood over Brad, breathing hard. Her elegant blazer was torn, her lips split. But her eyes blazed with triumph. "You threw me out once," she said clearly, making sure everyone could hear. "Now it's you who's out." Uniformed officers rushed in, roughly hauling Brad to his feet. He was sobbing now, all his arrogance finally broken. "Please," he begged. "Please, I'm sorry." "Save it for the judge," Detective Givens said, snapping handcuffs around Brad's wrists. "Adding assault with a deadly weapon to your charges. Not very smart." The crowd that had taken shelter behind cars and pillars emerged, breaking into spontaneous applause. Someone started chanting, "Monroe! Monroe!" until the whole showroom joined in. Marcus wheeled back to Vanessa's side. "You okay?" She touched her split lip, wincing. "Never better." Tasha pushed through with her camera. "Got it all on film. This is going to make one hell of an ending for the documentary." Renee appeared with a first aid kit and security incident forms, always prepared. Should we cancel the rest of the opening? Vanessa straightened her jacket, lifted her chin. No, we're not letting him disrupt anything else. This is our day. As police led Brad away, Vanessa turned to address the crowd. The young girl from earlier rushed up to hug her waist. "I'm sorry you all had to witness that," Vanessa said. "But maybe it's fitting. This place was built on keeping people like us out. Now it's about welcoming everyone in and making sure justice is served to those who'd try to stop us." The crowd cheered again. The jazz quartet resumed playing. Slowly, the celebration returned to its joyful rhythm. 6 months later, a crowd gathered in the Monroe Motors showroom. But this time, there was no tension, only electric anticipation. The space had been transformed into an automotive showcase worthy of Detroit or Tokyo. Sleek digital displays highlighted innovative engineering features. Scale models demonstrated breakthrough battery technology. At the center, hidden under a shimmering black cover, stood the culmination of countless hours of work. The Freedom One. Vanessa walked through the assembled guests, stopping to shake hands with former customers who'd been victimized by the old regime but had found justice and opportunity under new ownership. Many now worked here as salespeople, mechanics, or administrators. Their children were among the first class of scholarship recipients, learning engineering and design in the dealership's state-of-the-art training center. "Ms. Monroe!" Tasha Daniels waved from near the podium, clutching her recently awarded Emmy. Her documentary, Thrown Out, Then Took Over, had shocked the nation, exposing not just one dealership's corruption, but systemic discrimination throughout the auto industry. The film had sparked investigations at dealerships across the country. "Ready for another big moment?" Tasha asked, adjusting her camera. "Always," Vanessa replied with a warm smile. "Though this one belongs to them." She nodded toward a group of young black engineers in sharp suits, nervously reviewing their presentation notes. Marcus Boyd rolled up, his wheelchair now customized with the Monroe Motors logo. As head of community security, he'd transformed the dealership's relationship with the neighborhood. Instead of intimidating customers, his team provided protection and assistance, especially to elderly buyers who'd previously been scared to shop alone. "Perimeters secure," he reported out of habit, then grinned. "Old habits, but we did have to turn away some reporters. Everyone wants to see what these kids have created." Detective Givens, now retired but still standing tall, approached with his granddaughter. "Wouldn't miss this for the world," he said. "After everything we uncovered, seeing something good rise from those ashes. Well, it matters." "Speaking of justice," Vanessa said, "how are our old friends?" "Brad took a plea deal last week," Givens answered. 15 years. The councilman got 20. Their whole networks dismantled. The lights dimmed. It was time. Vanessa took the podium as conversations hushed. "A year ago, I was thrown out of this building," she began. "Humiliated, assaulted, told I didn't belong." She paused, letting the words sink in. But that moment of injustice sparked something powerful. It revealed a system of corruption that had been crushing dreams and stealing dignity for decades. When we exposed it, we didn't just win justice for ourselves. We created space for something new. She gestured to the engineering team. These brilliant young minds didn't just design a car. They redesigned what's possible. Every component of the Freedom One was engineered in this building by people who were once told they couldn't even shop here. The cover slid back, revealing a stunning electric vehicle. Its lines were both elegant and aggressive, with an innovative glass roof that seemed to float above the cabin. Solar panels were seamlessly integrated into the body panels. The crowd gasped. Lead engineer Malik Johnson stepped forward. "The Freedom One isn't just sustainable transportation," he explained. "It's a statement. We used recycled materials from crushed police cruisers in the chassis. The dashboard displays include a Know Your Rights feature for traffic stops. The onboard camera system automatically uploads encounters to secure cloud storage. As he detailed the technical specifications, unprecedented range, breakthrough charging speed, advanced driver assistance, Vanessa watched faces in the crowd light up with pride and possibility. Marcus led the security team in unveiling a line of Freedom Ones in different colors, each one representing a different scholarship recipient's contribution. The young engineers beamed as their innovations were highlighted. Tasha filmed it all, her camera capturing the moment history shifted. This wasn't just a car launch, it was a declaration of independence. Detective Givens wiped his eyes as his granddaughter excitedly pointed out features she wanted to help design someday. From criminal investigations to inspiration, he muttered. Now, that's justice. The ceremony concluded with the keys being handed to the first buyer, a black woman who'd been denied financing at the old dealership. She sat in the driver's seat, adjusted the mirrors, and pressed the start button. The car hummed to life with a sound engineered to evoke both power and peace. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows through the showroom's glass walls, Vanessa stood back and watched her staff prepare the remaining vehicles for delivery. Young engineers explained features to eager customers. Former victims of predatory loans now confidently discussed fair financing options. The Monroe Motors sign caught the fading light, its letters glowing. Own your power. They thought they broke me, Vanessa whispered, feeling the weight of the journey in every word. They built me. Her reflection in the showroom glass showed a woman transformed, not by bitterness or revenge, but by the power of turning pain into progress. The engineers called her over to witness their final checks on the Freedom One, their faces shining with the same determination she'd found in her darkest moments. The sound of electric motors whispered through the showroom as the first cars prepared to drive out into the world, carrying with them a story of defeat transformed into dignity, of exclusion transformed into opportunity, of power reclaimed and redirected toward progress. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.